getting y'all ready for the weekend. This is the Friday Night Takeover. Here are your hosts, Orlando Torres and Joe Garcia.
Welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Takeover. I almost said the Spurs Takeover because I did a show yesterday with my good friend Benjamin Bornstein about the Spurs and their draft. But moving forward here, I'm Joe Garcia, and we are joined today by Jonas Clark and Orlando Torres. Thank you, gentlemen, for being part of the show once again as we get geared up here and get ready to talk about local San Antonio sports. So let's go ahead and start off with you guys here. How's your week's been? We'll start off with you, Orlando.
Week's been going by pretty good so far. Still doing some of the writing stuff. I actually got to take a break from some of the sports stuff. Not that I get tired of it. I love writing about sports. But for one of the sites I wrote for, I wrote about 5 of comedians or comedies you need to check out during these quarantine times. And a bunch of them are like up-and-coming comedians, so not a lot of the big names, which I really had a fun time writing about.
A comedian too at one point, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get to do it, obviously, with this whole COVID thing, hit up the open mics, but no, I still am working on material, so once we start to normalize as a society, yeah, you best believe I'm gonna start hitting up open mics again.
That takes balls, bro. That takes balls.
Yeah, no, it's fun though. I mean, it's fun. So I honestly can't wait. I meet up with 2 other people during the week on Skype, about 10-20 minutes, and we just kind of bounce our ideas through each other, see what works, what doesn't work. So that's pretty fun.
Nice.
Yeah, that's badass. I know you did that, and you also did some acting and stuff, so you got some cojones, dude, to be out there in front of all these people, man, doing your thing. Some respect to you.
McConaughey over here.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man.
He does it all. He does it all.
That he does. And what about you, Jonas? What you been up to, man?
You know, man, hanging in there. Obviously, keeping an eye on the draft lottery that was yesterday. Nice to see the Spurs, I guess, at least not move back.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing, but it sucked that they didn't move up. But, you know, just kind of brainstorming, kind of like Orlando. My next piece is coming up with Project Spurs. I got 2 in the oven right now. One I really can't wait to get into because it's something I've been waiting to write on for a couple of months now, and now is the time that we can finally start talking about it. But I can't talk about it here yet. And another one, you know, that should be out here within just about a week and a half. That I'm excited to share, but more details on that, you know, on my Twitter here probably in a couple days.
So, me, I just been here getting ready for the kids, man, to get back to school officially. Everybody's going to be starting school on Monday, so been buying some clothes just in case, if and when. Everybody has to go in person learning at some point right now. It's going to be a big change for everybody because everybody's starting the distance learning thing. Doesn't mean they get to sleep in all day, though. They still got to adhere to a schedule, man, because at school, they don't play. They want you to check in at a certain time, which Orlando can attest to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you got to check in at a certain time or you're going to be tardy. How the hell are you going to be tardy when all you got to do is just log into a laptop, you know, that's you probably got propped up on the kitchen table or something. So that's something that I'm going to have to get used to. I'm going to have to wake up early now, probably like at 6 a.m. again. You know, everybody has to get up and make sure everybody's logged in before I even start my business, you know, so that's crazy. I know you had trouble too, Orlando, waking up, trying to adjust.
Yeah, and it's not like you could just log in. Like, you gotta actually, well, the way we're doing it, the child has to be like that, and it's a little harder because they're second graders. So I've caught him a couple of times where he just like kind of like dozing off. I'm like, gotta kind of wake him up without embarrassing him in front of his whole class. But so there'll be a couple of other kids too dozing off. So it's it takes a while to get used to.
Yeah, these poor kids, man. It takes a week for them, or 2 weeks at least, for everybody to get used to everything, and then it's gonna be a fun full day of school, and everybody's hungry as heck. Afterwards they want to eat everything in sight, man. So it's gonna be fun getting back in the swing of things again. But moving on here, we're gonna go ahead and start segueing into our fun-filled show here. We're gonna be talking about high school football. We're gonna go ahead and play B. Damone's interview that he had with Donovan Drayton out of Brennan High School. Yeah, I liked the interview. It was quite good. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys right now. So we're going to go ahead and cue up the dance music.
Hey, what it do? It's your boy B. Damone from Long Fire, and I am back on Friday Night Takeover. And I have got a very special guest who recently just made a big announcement. Defensive back from Brennan High School. I got Donovan Buddha Drayton. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Blessed. Too blessed to be stressed, man. So, as I just said, you just made a very important announcement, and you chose the College of University of Louisiana at Monroe. Congratulations on that, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, what was it about that college that made that the school for you?
Really, they approached me with the most genuine coaching staff. I believe that they just came to me and they were really upfront, really realistic and real with me. So I gained to I really appreciate really that aspect of it, but as well as the amount of competition you get to play at Monroe. I mean, you're going to be going up against top level talents, Kentucky's, LSU's, Alabama, Texas. So, I mean, it's a great place to be able to, I mean, take advantage of your opportunities, and I really like that about ULM. So that's
nice.
Really the big thing for me.
Nice. So going into your senior year at Brennan, there's been some changes in district, and so it seems as if the talk is that the district is wide open. So what is it going to take for Brennan to take that district crown?
Just playing really football, just going out there and doing our job. We know we set a standard to be a Bear, so we go out there. We have a thing called ACE, so it's an attitude, your character, and your effort. And if we take care of all 11 guys on the field at a time, then, I mean, it's not too much that can stop us. So just staying locked in, keeping people on the same page as each other, and having fun, really going out there, just having fun. That's the main thing we've been preaching to each other.
Right. So along with that, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and everybody's trying to move forward playing football as safely as possible. And with that comes the 100-year anniversary of the UIL, and they're going to allow streaming of games. So now, if there's no fans at the games and they have the option to stay home and watch the games, why should they watch Brennan football this season?
Because we coming with a lot of intensity. I mean, a lot of intensity, a lot of swag. I know us DBs, we talked about this. We talk about it every day when we're at our workouts. We talk about how we're coming out. We up there. We up tempo. We're gonna be the most. What's a good word for it? The most live group out of the district. So, I mean, that's what we preach to everybody. It's intensity. You come out there with a great attitude and a lot of intensity, you can win before you even step on the field. So, I feel like that's what we're coming out with this year.
Right. So last two questions. So I've been doing these polls, and I saw that as you said, you and your DB's been talking.
Yeah.
And it was just I do the 24-hour poll. So Brandeis ended up getting the most votes for best DBs in the city.
Yeah.
Use that as motivation is what I'm saying. And when you do see the polls, I know everybody can't vote. It's not, people got to push those votes out or retweet it. But whenever y'all do see that or see anything, is that what you do? Is just take it and put it in your bucket for something to draw from?
Yeah, for sure. We use all that as motivation. I mean, there's a lot of things that have went on over the off season that really said that we weren't who we felt we are. So I mean, it's just another reason to prove ourselves, another reason to go hard like we've been doing. So I mean, we don't take it to heart necessarily.
Right.
We just all right, bet, like that's how it is, and let's go, let's get it. So
awesome.
We don't really think too much about it.
So this is the last question. Is a 2-part question. Can you give me a prediction on your final score of the Brennan Harlan game? And is it very likely that the winner of that game is going to win district, in your opinion?
I think we win, of course, by 14-21. I don't know the score. I can't tell you. I don't know. I can tell you, but 14-21, 21 points. Yeah, that game is gonna be really the determining factor. I feel like of the district, it's split between us, O'Connor and Harlan. So, I mean, that's probably gonna be the biggest game this year. I feel like might be as big as OC and Brand Nice, but I mean, I feel like that whoever wins that will take the chip this year. So I mean, we ready for it. Whatever.
All right.
They got to set us up for it. So.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Donovan. Hey, can you plug your Twitter handle? What's your Twitter handle?
It's at Donnie25 DONNIE 2 FYE. Donnie25.
All right, make sure y'all follow Mr. Drayton. And once again, this has been Beat 'em On from Along the Wire. Follow me on Facebook at Along the Wirecast, on Twitter at Beat 'em On Instagram at Beat 'em On. Thank you again for your time, Donovan. Horns up, birds up. 210, we out.
Go Warhawks.
I mean, he's kind of everything you want in a DB, right? He has that right kind of attitude, that right kind of "we got this." I don't want to go as far to say cocky, but just that you can A, lay the boom, and B, make the play. And I think that's really what you look for in a DB, and that kind of shows why he made it to the next level. As a 3-star, he has opportunity to go on and represent San Antonio over at the University of Louisiana at Monroe. And that wasn't his only offer. He got offers from Air Force, Army, Houston Baptist, and Abilene Christian. So, I think that he chose a great opportunity, and he spoke on it about the level of competition that, just quite frankly, if you went to one of those other schools, you don't have the opportunity to really end up on the books of a LSU, of an Alabama, of an Auburn, when they're just trying to fill out their schedule with non-conference games. And, when you're trying to make it to the next level, it's those games at times that can get you noticed.
Yeah, do a great player, but one thing I've noticed is, aside from his play, is just like his character just stands out a lot, like just the way he speaks, with his other teammates, the play on the field. So that's one thing I've noticed. He talked about how, ace and character and attitude with those other guys too, and that's a big thing, especially to see like in younger players, to really hold that down, compared to what you might see from other players. So I know that's one thing that definitely helps them. to help him boost his profile when other teams are looking at him, or just overall for his teams, coaches, and teammates just looking up to him as not just as a player, but as a person. And really excited, looking forward to play the season. So nothing but great news coming out of that interview.
Turn my microphone on so everybody can hear me. I said, so what we're going to wind up doing right now is we're going to go ahead and take a quick 2-minute break. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and talk about some local high school sports that have been going on. Mainly, we're going to be talking girls volleyball and also the start of high school football as well. Not for the upper classes as far as 5A and 6A, but for some of the lower ones. So we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll go ahead and talk about that. All right, and we're back. So we're going to go ahead and dive in here, and we're going to go ahead and talk about girls high school volleyball. Mainly the 4A through 1A teams finished their first week of play without issues, as the new safety protocols look like they appear to be working. So I know that I read this article, and I saw this article as well on KSAT 12. So I was looking at this, and I was looking at all the information out there in regards to the first week of girls volleyball, 4A through 1A. And it appears that, all these safety measures that have been in place really helped everybody move forward without incident. So it showed a promising sign that maybe, just maybe, high school sports can in fact be played. So we'll see, I guess, if this will come to fruition. But nonetheless, it was a promising sign of the kids returning to some sense of normalcy. Like they like to get out and play sports, and that camaraderie they have with teammates. So that, to me, it was interesting. But we had some kids saying that with the new safety measures in place, that some of them had trouble breathing with the mask. I know that we all feel a certain way about that. So we'll go to you, Jonas. What did you think about the girls volleyball 4A through 1A resuming play?
I still think it's too early. My position is really not going to change on this, to the fact that we should not even be talking about sports right now. when we can't even get a lot of kids in the classroom at this point. So I just don't see, I, I don't see the need for it. To be honest, we should be talking about moving, high school sports to the spring too, because you've got universities canceling their volleyball season and stuff like that. And I get that it impacts other sports at this level, and you have a lot of multi-sport athletes in high school. I myself played 3 sports, but if I was told that I had to kind of just choose 1 or 2 that I'd be able to do in the winter and in the spring, then I definitely would have. If you have that decision, sometimes you're just faced with a tough choice, and I think that right now it's the adults kind of failing the kids. It's the school districts and it's the UIL, allowing these kids to go out there and compete and put themselves at risk. And, look, we don't know exactly how this impacts your system yet. So, wouldn't you want to have longevity to your potential athletic career rather than risk scarring of the lungs or something at this point now? That it is said, again, I don't have confirmed information that this is how everybody's impacted by the disease, but it's said to kind of target the lungs and the heart, and you need those to play sports moving forward. I just don't see a reason to be doing this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely stand on Jonah's viewpoint as well. But I mean, being that game's already intact and what we've seen, I'm a little hopeful that they could do it right. I know a lot of it comes from the parents just having that trust, just being able to leave their kids with the coaches and the staff and just being able to trust that. And same thing too with the coaches. And I know having I don't have a teenager, but I imagine just having a teenager, you know, it's got to be hard to keep your child at home, knowing that there's sports being offered, and a lot of times they may not, they. I'm not speaking for all teenagers or all kids, but I know a lot of times, maybe they don't see like the bigger picture, the way an adult or somebody else might. So I know that could be difficult, just telling your child to stay home all the time. But from what we've seen or what I've read, with schools sanitizing the balls, we haven't seen any handshakings. If they greet each other, it's kind of like a foot tap or something. Wearing a mask, I imagine during a game that could be very difficult. Wearing a mask when you're spiking, or what I mean, you're just constantly like breathing, trying to get your breathing techniques down. Some of the clips from the games have been pretty fun. It's been pretty positive, and just see more, I guess, of the human side. Where just seeing them positive, because who nobody knew what this was going to be like when it first started off with sports, if they were going to get canceled or moved to the spring in general. I do agree that they should be moved to the spring, but again, if schools, parents, and kids are going to take that risk, I mean, I'm going to wish nothing but the best for them and hope that it doesn't, that it doesn't collapse if there's a huge outbreak. Sorry. But yeah, from what we've seen, I mean, it's been exciting, just to see some live sports played, and they are, setting an example for, football, baseball, whatever other sports may be coming up. Some of the protocols of what works, what doesn't work, sanitizing the balls, how to keep the kids separated from each other, and handle the situation. But not only that, how they could evolve from that situation to make it a more better and enjoyable experience for the sport and just for the kids in general, for everybody who's involved.
Definitely something to keep our eye on moving forward. But at least, like I said, at least the kids at this point were able to get through their first week without any incident. We don't know how this will affect everyone moving forward, because sooner or later you're going to have something come out where somebody's going to contract COVID and it's going to spread. That's my biggest fear.
Let's just put it this way, right? We've known what we've needed to do as a society for the last 5 months to get past this. And I understand that when you're working with a closed unit like a team inside of a school and stuff like that, it's a little bit easier. But as you alluded to already, Orlando, these are teenagers. If we were all teenagers once, there's about an extent as to how much you can tell a teenager to do, and how much you can kind of make them do even. And right now, it's this is something that's in the best interest of their health is to maybe be avoiding this. But I think that and you have to kind of take the global perspective on this too. We didn't see things get really bad until it got really bad, right? And what we all felt like there was an extent where we still felt comfortable. I remember I was still going to work 3 weeks into March, and we were still they don't even put line separations and start counting people at my neighborhood Walmart over here off Evers until maybe the middle of May.
Yeah.
you know you know so as far as like catching up to all of that, and it's because it does take, this is one of those things that takes a little while to understand how it's tracing, how it's moving around, and exactly what how it's being transmitted through from person to person. And sweaty sports, if this is truly something that goes from a moisture point, and that's why we wear our masks, is because it's a moisture point from our lungs and into into the air, and it can land on surfaces. Then I just don't see how, when you move your mask a little bit to take a drink of water, I hope that they're sanitizing the water bottles over there, because if you bump somebody else's water bottle, that's a contact point. So obviously, that they are doing, that they've already started this sport. I hope their safety, and I wish them good health moving forward through all this, and because it is, we're not going to be able to get to the point of 5A and 6A athletics if 1 through 4, you start to see cases pop up, especially among the athletes, but not just among the athletes, and just the general school population as it is, because there's a lot of people involved when you start going from a 15, 16, team, person women's volleyball team, and moving on to a 54-man roster or 50-man roster for football.
Yeah, so definitely, man. But moving forward here, we're also going to go ahead and talk about the Comfort Bobcats. They're set to begin their season, their football season, not this Friday, but next Friday, August the 28th, on the road against Brackett in Bracketville in the Class 3A Division 1. Again, we have our other bigger divisions here in San Antonio, which the UIL went ahead and postponed all high school sports for the bigger schools, 5A, 6A, and that's not going to continue. That's not going to resume until September the 7th. While the lower classes, the lower divisions, like, the 1A through, I believe, 4A, they can go ahead and start resuming their schedules, their football schedules, which are going to be kicking off on Thursday and Friday of next week. So that to me, again, Jonas, we had the girls already, right, resume their play, and they had a whole week without incident. You think that football is going to be able to resume their play, which they're going to kick off next week, Thursday and Friday, without incident? Or are we going to have an outbreak once the weekend is over, and then it comes Monday, we hear something on the airwaves? Oh, somebody contracted, COVID because they played in a football game over the weekend. I mean, what's your take on that, Jonas?
Well, I think that a week, if we know anything by this point too, it's that a week is far too small of a measurement stick. If you want to start rolling this out, slowly, then you should probably have at least the 2 weeks of separation between 1 through 4A and 5 and 6A, because of just the sheer amount of the student population at risk if somebody does come down with COVID-19. I don't see it. Football, we've already talked about before, this summer, about how difficult it already was to train for the football season that they're getting into. Lifting weights outside, 4-man practice squads and spacing in between, and changing outside of the locker room. I don't know that you got 2 teams of, again, 30, 40, 50 kids changing outside of the locker room for Friday Night Lights. I don't know if you have that going on. Obviously, there's no crowd to watch a bunch of high school boys changing, but I don't think that that's really culturally appropriate either, to have a bunch of high school boys changing when there is still going to be a press box, and they will have cameras out there to televise all these games, whether it's actually on TV or via an internet stream. But this is just it doesn't look good, man. That's all. That's where I'm stuck with this. I love sports as much as the next guy. I'm glad that we got through the NBA season without further incident. I didn't think, go back to the first show, and I did not think we were going to get through the NBA season. We might get through the MLB season. We'll see here. Obviously, it won't be a clean one because you've had players contracting the virus this whole time. And even the Mets-Yankees series, which is ESPN's big baby, something they're looking for those ratings is being postponed right now because somebody within the Mets organization had a positive COVID-19 test. So, again, if we can't get this down at the professional sports level, I don't see Comfort High School. Again, I wish those kids the best. I wish the staff the best. Anybody out there that's going to be involved in this, just please be smarter than we as a society have been up to this point, and be diligent in your practices in terms of hand sanitizing, cleaning the ball, and stuff like that.
Yeah. And what about you, Orlando? What do you think about the Comfort Bobcats in the lower divisions 1A through 4A resuming their prospective high school football kickoffs? They're going to resume their schedule Thursday and Friday of next week. You alarmed? You got some concerns? Let us know.
Yeah, no, I do got some concerns. I think, so far from like what we've seen with some of the sports going on, I know, like football, soccer, you got quite a bit of guys too. But when I look at high school football, I just know there's just a lot of people involved in general for a football team. So I do get a little concerned, only because I think it's just harder to, keep all these kids in check, to constantly know, who's going to be counting heads, who's going to be, doing what. It's just hard. It's kind of like impossible to kind of just be watching over your shoulder over kids, teenagers the entire time. So I am a little worried. I do have some hope that everything does come out fine. And it does kind of just lead the roadmap. It's a long season too, just because, we may get through the first week of no cases. It's going to be the same question every other week, leading up into title games and all that stuff, especially when the fall comes around. And I know this is kind of like a dead horse we've been beating like every week, but it is something that, it brings a little concern. So, with all that being said, I love football, love high school football. I'm excited for it. I hope they do it right, because I would hate to see high school football or just football in general postponed again. If they're going to do it, they're taking the chance on it. I just hope they do it right and just be professionals about it, because, at the local level, no matter what school you go to, what part of town you're at, a lot of these high schools are not going to have the money to, for the tests at the way a pro, at the levels that the pro athletes are getting tested. And just like as Jonas was saying, a lot of times they're not even getting it right. So you start having hiccups at a local level, it's not something that you could just keep on having a train rolling, sit out a couple guys. You may have to put a halt to, the season just to get everything situated. And at that point, do you continue the season? That's a bad look. Or you just like, all right, guys, failed experiment. Let's just look forward to the spring. So that's another question that could come up. I hope we don't get to that point, but with football, it is a little concerning, especially because I haven't heard nothing yet, but I don't know if they're gonna these football players are gonna be playing with masks on. I don't know about that, but if they do, I know they already have their mask on. Their helmets on. And I don't know how that's going to work with their mouthpiece, but I imagine that's going to be a challenge in general. You hear from some of the ladies in volleyball that playing with the mask on as hard as it is. Imagine wearing your mouthpiece, your mask, and a helmet on top of that. It's just a lot of stuff to be answered, but I wish them nothing but the best, because I would like to, check out some high school football streaming at home.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe it was B. Damone that was saying that they're going to wind up saying, okay, you want to watch a game from your alma mater, or you want to watch a marquee matchup, two big high school teams going at each other, it's going to be about $10. somewhere in that neighborhood, which isn't bad at all. He said it's basically the price of 2 tickets to a game, so you get to watch it from the comfort of your own home. So there you have that, but at the same time, I hear what you're saying about these kids. I just wish them nothing but the best. Hope for the best, but I'm bracing myself for the worst, because you never know what can happen, out there. But hopefully these safety protocols will keep them safe. That's my biggest concern moving forward.
Are they officially charging for viewer streamingship? Because I think B. Damone was actually talking about how he thinks they should operate, but I haven't heard anything about actual payment prices for it. I don't know if you guys have.
No, just in talking with B. Damone, he was saying that he believes that's how they're going to wind up proceeding moving forward after he was talking to some of the people involved with the UIL. And from what he was hearing, he said that they're probably going to wind up charging $10. And if they're not charging you $10 to stream the game online, and let's say it does wind up coming out on your local television stations, which for us would be a Fox 29, CW 35, and those games are televised for free, somebody had to pay for it. So more than likely it was the station that fit the bill for the right to be able to air the game,
Or sponsorships or boosters, or somebody was able to get it out there, because it's going to be exposure for those kids regardless. And if those kids go on to have success after high school, as many high school football players do out of San Antonio, that's only going to look better for the city. So this just is an opportunity for more of those guys to get some games on actual film, on the screen.
Yeah, most definitely. So it's something we'll keep an eye on, and we're also going to be talking with B. Damone in the coming weeks to see how everything is going with this experiment. We're going to call it that. It is an experiment right now. So hopefully everything is going to be cool and be copacetic, but we're going to keep a pulse on here and then see what's going to happen. But moving forward, we're going to talk about our sports and season talk. We're going to be talking about, some San Antonio FC. San Antonio FC had another midweek game, Jonas. Another game. This has been a back-to-back for them. Their schedule has been pretty hectic. And they won against the OKC Energy 4-0 this past Wednesday to remain number one in Group D with 18 points. Next, they're going to face FC Tulsa this Saturday at 8 p.m., so it's a quick turnaround for them. I don't know if you watched the game or not. Jonas, did you?
In and out. So not the full thing, but kind of just keeping an eye on the match, and most of it just following through the score on Twitter, because it was a midweek match, and there's only so many of those I can keep my eye on, and so many days I can take off to watch sports, and on the weekdays, and with the NBA bubble having closed on the Spurs season, I couldn't multitask that evening, but trying to keep an eye on it for sure. I do know that it was a historic night, guys. I don't know if you guys caught this, but Leo Torres became the first player to go all the way through the SAFC Pro Academy. And if you do watch the games on ESPN Plus, watch the FC matches, they always kind of have that advertising segment, that kind of promotion for the USL and how the talent pool works and everything like that. And so Leo Torres making his way all the way up from, I believe he started out with the under 12 team back in 2016 and got to make his debut in that 4-0 win. That's pretty badass.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm excited though, because San Antonio FC, it looks like they've turned this season around compared to last season. They've fared better. They do have the draw, but it's better than a loss, so I'm going to take it at this juncture. And they're putting the points up there to stay at tops, in Division D. So right now they're doing all the right things that need to be done to sustain their number one spot. I just hope that they can keep on doing this moving forward, because we know as you move through the season, you do have to deal at times with injuries, things that happen behind the scenes as far as their goalies sometimes, they got to switch them.
Well, I believe even so, St. Clair is still called up to the MLS. So to have a clean sheet from your backup goalie, that's pretty huge. And that definitely speaks to the strength of this team. And I know we kind of touched on it last week, but what Alan Marcina has done and kind of helping turn this club around in his first year as coach. That you were just mentioning there about the turnaround, Joe. What more can you ask for? Are you finally watching every match? I remember, just a couple weeks back,
Oh yeah,
you
they
said,
got me mad.
I'll watch. I'll watch as soon as they stop breaking my heart. Are you officially buying into this season, Joe?
I'm still watching them, but have no doubt that they're gonna break my heart, much like the San Antonio
Oh my
Spurs.
goodness!
I'm still gonna watch. I got them there on the tablet as I'm
Never
watching
the
UFC.
pessimist.
As I'm
Never
watching
the
UFC,
pessimist.
I'm just waiting for it to happen. It's gonna happen sooner or later. Big game. This is gonna get you in the playoffs. Bam!
Joe,
Last minute.
I got a little piece of advice here for you. We're all gonna die at some time, but if you don't start enjoying life and sit there and watch the games and just enjoy them rather than focusing on doomsday, you're gonna have a lot more fun. I'll tell you that much. Focus on the moment in front of you. We're having a lot of fun right now with FC. It's great to be on top of Group D. And if we make the playoffs, in that kind of, we get to go on to represent Group D, then we get to go on and we get to participate in the bracket. But uh, enjoy this, man, and don't focus on the losing quite yet because we haven't lost. We still have not lost. 2 draws. That's all we've gotten. So buy in. Start drinking the Kool-Aid or something, man.
It would be easier if I was able to tailgate with some of the good people over there, and right across the parking lot from the stadium. It made the game a lot more enjoyable, and it made the loss that much more, I guess, easier to deal with when you had a couple beers in you.
But we're not losing.
Not yet, Jonas, but brace yourself.
Not yet.
We've been down this rabbit hole one too many times before. I ain't drinking the Kool-Aid quite yet.
If you're not bought in by this point, man, I don't know. Don't come to the victory parade.
I won't be on that parade, dude. But I'll be cheering for the team. But I'm just saying, I'm just pessimistic because I've been here too many times before. So I just want to see how things transpire. Let's put it like
You're talking
that.
to a Browns fan and a Commanders fan who has lost his franchises before, and who knows losing. You got to celebrate the wins. Don't be that San Antonio fan that's playoffs or nothing. Come on, and we're looking at playoffs.
Playoffs are bust for me, Jonas. I got no in between, man.
FC's doing it for you. FC is doing it for you right now. They're doing it for you right now. If you don't celebrate them while they're here, you're gonna miss them when they're gone, which we've talked about before. They very may well be. So enjoy this season.
I wish I could. I wish I could be at the stadium enjoying this season.
But you can't. So take the next best thing and watch them on ESPN Plus.
Yeah. What about you, Orlando? You got anything to say about San Antonio FC?
I mean, as grueling as the season has been, because I think their 5th game like in 14 days. I think I saw on their site.
Yeah.
Which could be pretty grueling compared to what all they do. But for the most part, I mean, it's been positive. I think out of all the groups, there's only 4 teams with at least 5 wins, and the FC's right up there with no losses. I think the only other team with at least 1 loss is Phoenix Rising with 1 loss. I think everybody else has a minimum of 2 losses. That has 5 wins. So that's some pretty positive news, and they're picking up the points as well. So they're right atop of Group D.
Yes.
Looking at the other teams in Group D, right now, I guess for Tulsa, Austin, OKC, like those teams, RGB, would be right now to make a run because at the pace that those teams are going, it's going to be hard to see anybody catch up with SAFC. So that's a positive thing. But I think for the most part too, as frequent as the games have been, especially with no fans, I mean they've been pretty enjoyable from the games that I've been able to watch. The clips, and that's got to be hard for some of these teams. Just go out there because I know the crowd plays a large part in live sports, but the chemistry is building, and I think that's very uplifting for for a city like San Antonio with the FC to go out there. So I mean, win or lose, I mean, I'm looking at the positives right now. That's definitely a positive thing right now, especially kind of built up that such a stretch between them and the rest of Group D.
Yeah, most definitely. So I'm going to be still watching the games and supporting the team. I'm just hoping for the best, Jonas. That's all I'm going to say.
Cheer them on. They're gonna need everybody's help tomorrow.
That they are.
Even if it's just on Twitter or putting out the vibes there for the team, because FC's match tomorrow at 8 o'clock, of course, on ESPN Plus. It's against FC Tulsa. They're in second place in Group D, and if you and not to pick up your pessimistic viewpoint, Joe, but you do want to be cautious and look ahead and how a season can kind of snowball away from you. And a 3-point swing on Saturday, tomorrow, could see our lead in the group cut down to just 5. So if we can at least get the 1 point for the draw, but let's shoot for 3 points. We'll break 20 points on the season. We'll be the first to 20, I believe, across the USL. If as long as the other leaders aren't playing tonight, we would be the first one to break across the 20 barrier.
That we will be. So again, it's going to be a pivotal game, an important game. So I got nothing but good vibes that I'm sending them. I'm going to be watching that game as I'm watching UFC as well.
Yeah, take your pessimism to the corner.
So we're already behind here. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick 2-minute break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. So we're going to go ahead and transition here and talk about an interesting topic, Orlando. This is something that you brought to our attention. We just got word of San Antonio Sports is prepping for its after-school program, and they call it iPlay. It's going to start remotely this year by working on, sports-specific videos that will be offered to PE teachers and school districts around the Alamo City. I think you told us you had an interesting take on this, Orlando.
Yeah, so the iPlay program I thought was very interesting. I mean, they're going to be started. I know soccer is going to be the first one rolled out. I saw that there's a couple of other sports that may be rolled out later on, but overall, just a good cause. And they're offering it to PE coaches, teachers, but more importantly, the students. Just keep your student active at home. But warming up, cooling down, training drills. I know right now with my son, he just started school, and it's tough because he takes his regular class, art, and PE, and PE is I imagine that's a little tough, especially virtually. For younger kids, so what I've seen, I watch them during his classes too sometimes, is the coach had I didn't see all the other kids, but from what he was doing, kind of put his laptop down and they're doing high knees, kind of like marches, a couple of jumpy jacks, uh, stuff like that, running in place, which I thought it was interesting. And then like a day later, I found out about iPlay, or the day before I heard about iPlay, which I thought was pretty good because I imagine that's tough for PE coaches too. A lot of kids like PE. I know my kid, he loves PE. He talks about our class and like, being able to play basketball and just being in contact with those kids. I mean, obviously you can't do that at the moment, but I remember the last school year, he always talked about PE, PE, PE. So I thought this was pretty cool. We try to stay active as it is to begin with the Nerf ball or like, riding a bike or something like that. But the iPlay definitely hit close to home. But I think this is just good in general, especially for children who may not be as privileged. Compared to like other families. Of course, obviously, none of that is none of their fault. But you still keep them engaged. You still keep them active. They want to play sports. When the stuff starts going back to normal, they really got a little gist of it. I mean, obviously, it's nothing compared to actually going out there and playing soccer with other kids or other sports that may be rolled out there here. I think I saw tennis was another sport that was going to be rolled out later on, and volleyball. But this is interesting, and I would like to see it played out, see how this is taught virtually, and I'm like literally excited for this program for all the kids and everybody that's able to partake in this. But just seeing some of the background and them the photo shoots or like the video of them shooting little segments for it. It's I'm not even a kid, but I was already glued to it, waiting for these videos to be released for these school programs. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, it kind of makes me want to go outside and start playing sports now.
Right? It's interesting how they're still finding ways to get these kids active, even in the pandemic that we're living in right now. And I think it was important, like we saw, when the kids had to go ahead and continue school remotely right after spring break. They never returned to school. There was no PE for that many months, and then all of a sudden they go into the summer and they've probably been eating snacks and just taking it easy, and doing things, I'm sure, with their families from time to time. But that regimen of having that PE is pivotal, because some of these kids, that's probably the only activity that they'll have as far as physical activity throughout the day, and them being able to offer that as a virtual session, to me, that's ingenious. So hats off to San Antonio sports for coming up with that. And Jonas, what did you think about this?
I mean, it's definitely one of those things that's necessary, right? Because I can't imagine the challenge of trying to, in a sense, homeschool your kids, during this time and have to handle something like gym class. When you think about gym, and what phys ed it was basketball, it was soccer, it was throwing the football around, it was the weird giant rainbow parachute when you were in elementary school, and all that stuff. And so obviously, just like everything else this year, it's a lot different, so it's going to take a different viewpoint. And they have a lot of resources, even if it's even if you need some advice on how to keep your kids active during this time. My parents used to always just send us outside. Obviously, you can't do that right now because of just all the contact points everywhere. But they just kind of send us outside, and we would come back home a couple hours later, and that we got around and just moved around and running up and down the block and stuff like that. But San Antonio Sports.org does have some other extra resources, for year-round resources for parents or those who are taking care of children, on their website, sanantoniosports.org. They have a downloadable coloring book that helps, has advice and tips for keeping kids active during this time. And if you're, even if you're at the point where you're like, well, my kid, what do I do with them in terms of just even just kind of wearing them out a little bit if you just need them to not be so hyper around the house. They have a downloadable PDF with just a little bit of an exercise plan. And it's probably not even a bad idea if you can, because even as adults, we're spending how much time sitting down in front of a computer, and then spending that time sitting down at the end of the day in front of the TV with the family, or even just for game night, you're still sitting down, and we're all on our asses at this point. So get up, and it might not be a bad idea to do some of those things with your kids. Just they got some of the side to side skate movements, and high knees and stuff like that. But you run through that in 20 minutes, 30 minutes with your kid, and it's an opportunity for you to normalize this time. I think is probably the best way to look at that, is making it something that doesn't seem so far out there, and make it maybe even a joint activity to get the family involved if you can. I understand, like, everybody grows up in different family situations. My parents worked a lot too, but during this time, I know lots of parents are working from home as well. So if you can, sanantoniosports.org, they have some resources there to help everybody out.
Yeah, most definitely. So again, something to really keep an eye on. We're going to go ahead and take a 2-minute break here coming up shortly. And we're going to go ahead and come back and tell you guys what we got cooking up for you guys for hour 2. I know we're going to be having some a special guest on, so that's going to be interesting. We'll go ahead and reveal that when we get back from break. But nonetheless, I did like this gesture by San Antonio Sports again, being able to offer this type of program to the kids of San Antonio. And you know what, Orlando, it was interesting, like you had brought this up too. And initially, they're going to go ahead and have the iPlay program, the after school program, start remotely. But at some point, the plan is for them to actually transition to in person after school care. Was that correct?
Yeah. So reached out to one of the people on social media through the San Antonio sports page on Instagram. So they did say that they are going to bring this to in person, but no timetable has been set. So that's a good thing. It's not like they had a date set for like October, September, or something that was super soon. So from what I got from them is that they're paying attention to what's going on, possibly working with health officials. So no date has been set, but as far as the virtual stuff has been going on to keep the children inactive, like eventually, once everything starts calming down, then it will transition to in person.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
are coming right up on that point where last year, I believe it was their inaugural year for the iPlay Sports after school, where they had the soccer tournaments, and they did they had a track program and a basketball tournament as we got out of winter. So hopefully we can get through this as a community and start bringing these things back, away from the digital realm. But hats off to them for adapting.
Yeah, most definitely. I thought it was an ingenious move. So, I'm glad they actually thought about it, implemented it, and executed the plan to perfection. So, hats off to them for keeping the kids safe and still active. So, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and set you guys up for hour 2. And we're back. And yes, you can hear the ice cream man passing by my neighborhood, blaring their horns real loud for all the neighborhood kids to hear. That's not the good truck, though. That's the one that's too expensive. Always wait for the second one. That's the one that has the good snacks in it. But either way, I digress. So we're moving forward, setting up you guys for hour 2 here. And in hour 2, we're going to be talking about UTSA football with our special guest, JJ Perez of 24/7 Sports and Inside Runner Sports. We're also going to go ahead and talk about some San Antonio Spurs basketball. Yes, you got that right. And it has to do with Coach Pop. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that in hour 2. And we're also going to take a look one last time at the high school football that's going to kick off here in classes 1 through 4A. And we're going to give you guys our insight into what maybe this could mean for the higher divisions in class 5A through 6A. So let's go ahead and dive in here and get started. We're going to go ahead and play you a segment from our good friend JJ Perez of 24/7 Sports and Inside Runner Sports.
UTSA has a first-year head coach in Jeff Traylor. They have a brand new coaching staff. They're putting in a brand new offense, a brand new defense. So it's been a challenge because normally the NCAA does not allow players to practice during the summer. So there was no spring, there was no summer, and because of COVID and the fact that spring practices got canceled, they let the coaches have sort of a walkthrough type of a session with the players. And if you could imagine, there's no, it's not a real practice. So you look back at kind of the last 6 months or so, and UTSA has never seen the coaches, the brand new coaches, they've never seen their players practice. So it's been a challenge. So we're on practice number 9 today. They're barely getting into, seeing what they have, installing the new offense, installing the new defense, and that's where they're at.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things too that I was going to ask you about is what are your hopes for the team coming into this season? Because we saw last season, I was there with you in the press box too, and we saw them go toe to toe with some pretty damn good teams. One of them being the Army. And they were toe to toe with Army for the first 2 quarters. Then that third quarter came and the wheels just came off, and they could just never recover. We know that at times the defense has been very inconsistent. The offense at times has been the same as well, inconsistent play. But I have really high hopes coming into this season with the new coach, new schemes being drawn up. I really like a lot of things that the new coach has been saying. He's very motivational, and looks like he's really engaged, and he really wants to go ahead and put a great product out there on the field. And that's one of the things that I really love about this new head coach. But what were your expectations?
Jeff Traylor has kind of set the bar high, here in his first year. But it's real tough he's at a competitive disadvantage because of the fact that, this is a new coaching staff. They've only seen their players practice 9 times, where like as Texas State, their opponent, they started practice a little bit earlier. They saw some of their springs, and they have a coaching staff that's been there a year already. So it's one of those things where the expectations are high. I think they can be an improved team from last season, but some of it is just going to have to be, they're going to have better offense. And anybody who follows college football knows that starts at the quarterback play. And UTSA has some guys at quarterback. Frank Harris was the starter last year before he suffered a season-ending injury in the beginning of the season. They got a graduate transfer from New Mexico, Josh Atkins, who's a former Smithson Valley area player here in San Antonio. Jordan Weeks from Wimberley High School is having a really, really good fall camp so far. And then Lowell Narcissus has started half of the games last year, more than half of the games last year. He's probably one of the better, if he's the starter, one of the better returning quarterbacks in Conference USA. So it all kind of starts there. It's a 4-way battle. Everybody's saying it's kind of even quarterback battle right now, and they're really talented. All those guys have enough experience to keep you optimistic that hey, they can be improved this season, and it's just a matter of seeing which one comes to the top. And the quarterback thing is something that UTSA has always talked about as far as the position and who the guy is, and the backup and whatnot. And this year it's a new coaching staff, new schemes, but it still comes down to who's going to be calling the signal and throwing the ball from that quarterback position, because it's so important in college football.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you again for your informative take here on the upcoming season for UTSA football. And before we end our segment right here, where can everybody go and follow you on social media?
Sure. Appreciate that, Joe. InsideRunnerSports.com is the website. We're 24/7 sports website. On Twitter, I'm at the JJ Perez, Perez, and then the website Twitter is at UTSA Insiders. And check it out on Twitter and Facebook. We got we are a subscription site. We talk about recruiting news a lot of stuff happening on that end, but we do have a lot of free content, a bunch of interviews and videos. So check it out. It's San Antonio football, it's Division I football, and it's right in your own backyard.
I thought it was interesting what JJ was saying, how the players weren't even introduced. They didn't even see their coaches until recently. They couldn't even work out. They couldn't practice just until recently, with the actual coaches and the coaching staff. What did you think about that, Jonas?
I mean, it's definitely makes things a lot more difficult, but that's kind of like we've said before. It's one of the situations of the times, and you can kind of tell they've been going hard at it. I've been seeing JJ's coverage of practice, that he's been sharing to the team, and the post-game interview or the post-practice interviews with the media sessions and stuff. And they'll be ready. The guys will be ready. It's going to be one of those things where they kind of, it's might be forged in the fire a little bit. It's fortunate they start their schedule. I believe the first game is Texas State, if I'm not mistaken. Y'all, you can correct me on that one if I'm off. But at least it's something to kind of get into the season with. And just like anything else with the NBA and Major League Baseball, and even with hockey, kind of a bit too. And we touched on this earlier with SAFC, where those first kind of couple contests seem like a little bit of warm up, shake off the rust. It's going to be it's kind of like a live practice at this point. And hopefully, as you kind of expand out to the larger picture, and even for UTSA's hopes, if there's with the Pac-12 out and with the Big Ten conference out this year, if there's an opportunity to kind of make a top 25 appearance, hopefully, and get a bowl game, hopefully, kind of across the board, the committee is going to take these first couple weeks with a grain of salt, because it's not just UTSA. Every program is kind of dealing with this, themselves too. But new coach, lots of young guys in there, a couple of important transfers. I know we'll touch on the players here in a bit, but they're doing their work. They're doing their work.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. Just watching UTSA kind of collapse, in that second half, or in games where they just couldn't close. But hearing some of the players, McCormick, Norseys, like all these guys that are coming back, not on plus on top of the recruits, um, it just it builds better for the chemistry of UTSA. Some of those guys, to really take on that leadership roles, knowing what it's like to be against, some of those bigger teams in the big games, especially that team with the Army, where they were in it, and I know you don't want to take it like as a morale loss, but it's like, hey, they were toe to toe with them. They were head to head for at least half of the game. They know there's some stuff. There's some stuff they could have done differently. There were some injuries, but a lot of teams go through injuries. But it's just weird times, and they're making do with what they got right now. By not practicing, not practicing with everybody. Meeting their coach late, and not having a preseason. But still, some not besides from the coach, these players, that are coming back for another season with UTSA, those are going to be the guys who are going to buckle down, aside with trailer to get ready for the season because they already know what it's like. Uh, to the system, some of the plays they run, and just getting everybody ready for the upcoming season. So that's going to be interesting. I know a lot of teams are going through that, but I'm not too worried about like some of the leadership roles that UTSA has this season.
Yeah, like we even like you were talking about Noel Narcissus, and even Sincere McCormick. Those are names that we heard a lot last season. It's going to be interesting to see what they've been developing. As far as their game goes, what have they added to it to really take UTSA to this next level. We have new schemes being I guess worked on by the new coach right now. So I have high hopes for this team. Like I said, it looks like the new head coach came in and really motivated this team, and I think he's getting them ready to compete at a high level coming into this season. But I know Jonas had felt a certain way about the season even getting started because we've even seen a lot of other conferences calling, and canceling their seasons outright. And we have UTSA here going ahead and continuing with their season with Conference USA. I mean, what do you think, Jonas?
Well, I mean, it's one of those double-edged sword things. Because while I'm against the fact that we even have sports going on right now, you want to pull for the guys too, if they're going to put themselves out there. What Jeff Traylor brings to all this and his experience coming from Arkansas, I have no doubt that he's handling things seriously, and this is a talented team. At least they have a lot of guys coming back, even in terms of that quarterback room. Frank Harris was the starter last year. Of course, he goes down with an injury, and then the aforementioned Lowell Narcisse goes on to start the rest of the year. So now you have a legit quarterback battle, and I know JJ mentioned that quarterback room that also includes, former Smithson Valley quarterback Josh Adkins. He's bringing, even though it might not be system experience that that Traylor's bringing in, and of course, what the offense is going to be different for Narcisse and for Harris too. But they still have chemistry with their receivers, and Adkins, is a 2-year starter over at New Mexico State, so he's not going to come in and just to sit down and ride the pine, in his hometown as well. And I think that if you're going to have a season, you're going to have a season. I just hope the best for these guys. That's at the end of the day, that's all I can do. Do I believe that it should be out there? No. But if they're going to be out there, I don't believe Major League Baseball should be out there. And I follow my baseball team. If I truly believe that sports shouldn't be out there, then I believe that SAFC should not be out there right now. And it's a stance that I continue with. But it's kind of like one of those things where, I mean, if we're going to do it anyway, I'm going to follow it. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to watch it. And so it feels a little dirty. I'm not gonna lie, to kind of carry that mentality with it. You feel like you're like, oh, this goes against everything that I kind of believed in, the fact that we shouldn't be having sports right now. So it feels dirty in that sense. But but sometimes it feels good to be bad too. And so they're breaking my rules a little bit, but I'm here to watch it, all the same. So, all I ask is, and I believe that JJ would know this more than I would, but I believe that the guys out there at UTSA are at least handling, and Coach Traylor's staff are at least handling this the best that they possibly can, and that they have not the interests of the university, but the interests of the health of the student athletes out there as top priority.
I can tell you that they do. JJ was telling me how great a job they were doing behind the scenes with the media and keeping everybody socially distant, and how protective they were of the kids as well, where they're not allowing the media to be there right in the vicinity.